I'm Owen Bigline. This is the Inside Edge video blog. When I'm working with my buying clients, one of the most important things when we're out looking at condos, we're doing searches, that kind of thing. I tell my clients that one of the most important things when you're buying a condo, other than, of course, narrowing it down to a neighborhood, a location, we've got a price, size, all that kind of thing, square footage of the unit, indoor, outdoor space, of course. Those are all things you need to address first. But after that, in second place for sure, is the strata corporation, the building, the strata that you're buying into. Because remember, when you're buying a condo in Vancouver, you're essentially taking part ownership in a corporation, in the Strata Corp. And stratas in this province, let's talk about the city of Vancouver here, there's good ones, bad ones, and horrible ones. It's all over the road here. Not only from the perspective of, what the Strata Council does. The Strata Council, of course, is made up by the owners in the building, but also, what kind of property management company do they have? Who is the property manager? How active are they? What are they paying these property managers to run the building? So it's all over the road, but it's something that when you're buying a stratified property, it's something you want to look at and, of course, read the AGMs, ask questions, read the president's reports, get the financials, do your due diligence on this stuff. Because people ask me, what differentiates a good strata from a bad strata? And a lot of times, at first glance, you can't tell. Now, that is one of the benefits of hiring an experienced realtor. If you're looking to buy a condo in downtown Vancouver, it certainly helps to be using a realtor who knows the downtown core well, knows a lot of the stratas, has either sold or listed in many of the buildings, so he's read the strata docs for, in some cases, 8, 9, 10 years worth of strata docs. So that is your first, probably your best angle right there. Go with an experienced realtor who knows the downtown core. After that, of course, if you don't, and I don't know every strata, that's for sure, you're going to ask for all the strata documents. But I'll give you some tips here on the kind of things you want to see in the strata documents, the kind of things you want to see in the AGMs and in the president's reports. Now, not all stratas issue these president's reports, or if they do, they can be very brief. One paragraph, hey, everything was good this year. That's about it. I tend to like the ones where the president's report is a couple of pages long. They go into great detail on the year that was and the year that they foresee coming forward. So I'll give you an example here from the strata I live in. This is my principal residence. I live in the West End. I, of course, being a realtor, I did my due diligence. I knew the good buildings in the West End. It was a bit of a waiting game for me to get into this building. But when I did 2.5 years ago, I had a pretty good idea of what I was buying here as far as the Strata Corp. I had a pretty good idea of the makeup of the owners in this building and how well they ran it. But this is from our last month's AGM for 2019. And I'll give you this, these are the kind of things you want to see that make me feel good about not only my Strata Council, but also the property manager we currently have here too. So if people own strata in Vancouver, you'll know that insurance rates, and I blogged about this before, have been going up huge the last couple of years. Claims are way up. Insurance rates have gone up double digit here for the last 3 or 4 years. Huge. Now, in our last year, we got the insurance renewal, and I'll name the company here. It's Hub. They're a big property insurer in Vancouver here. We ended up with a 28% increase in our insurance, which isn't uncommon. All the stratas are getting huge insurance increases. It went up to $87,000 was our premium for 2019. It was a 28% increase. Now, being in a good building here with a proactive strata, a very active strata council, and a good property manager, they went out and tendered this to some other insurance companies and negotiated. They ended up going with BFL, which is another big insurance company. We ended up getting the policy, same coverage. Actually, they're saying in here it was actually a little bit better coverage for $68,000. So that's a difference of $26,000 between Hub and the new insurance company we went with, and apparently we're getting a little bit better coverage. $26,000 savings for 2019. Now that's the sign of a good proactive strata that's on your side. Those are the type of buildings you want to go into. You know, some other things, of course, contingency fund, healthy contingency fund. My building has 100 units. We've got over $1 million in the CRF. That's pretty healthy. That's, you know, works out to over $10,000 per unit. Now, I've talked about this before. There's a fine line there. You want a healthy contingency fund, but you don't, I particularly don't really like it when we're pumping an excess amount into the CRF. There's a happy medium there. And I think on a building like mine, if you can have 10 or 12 or 15K per owner in the CRF per unit, that's pretty healthy. I don't know how much more I'd want to go than that, because I'm under the belief rather than giving the money and pumping it into the CRF, I'd rather hang on to my money, invest it, get a rate of return on it. And then when we need something big like an elevator upgrade or a new roof, we'll take some money out of the CRF and then I'll write you a check for $2,000 or $3,000, a levy check. I kind of prefer to do it that way. Some other things you want to see. My strata, and I've had several stratas like this, you know, the property management game is extremely, extremely competitive, as people know. And a lot of stratas kind of change their property managers like they're changing their underwear. Every year or so, they're going through another property manager. My building is the same. We've gone through in the last 3 years here a couple of property managers, you know, sometimes, you know, these property managers are very overworked. Some of these guys might manage 20, 30, 40 stratas is under their portfolio. So it's important to get a good property manager that's hands-on, maybe one that's not too overworked. I'm under the belief that I would rather pay a little bit more to a property management company to get a little bit more time from the property manager. So the property manager, when work needs to be done as far as plumbing or electrical work or work on the swimming pool or whatever, they're going to do a little more due diligence. They're going to tender that out to for a few more quotes and maybe save us $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. That adds up. And if you're paying an extra $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 for a property manager, but he's saving you $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 a year, then I think it's well worth it. So proactive strategies. Another few things that I noticed too. Now I'm lucky enough to be in a fairly higher end building here in the West End, mostly made up of 2 and 3 bedroom units. Now, the thing I find with some of these more higher end buildings is, of course, you're getting a little bit different demographic in there. Most of the owners tend to be owner occupied. You get a few rentals, a few people that are renting out their units, but for the most part, it's a lot more owner occupied. You tend to get a lot more professionals. So they're going to be doctors, business owners, accountants, that kind of thing. You also find, I think, with some of the higher end buildings, what I find is some of them are maybe semi-retired or even retired, some of these owners. And that can be fantastic because now they've got a bit more time. They've got some time to volunteer to get on strata as a vice president or as a secretary or whatever. They attend the monthly strata meetings. There are just a lot more hands-on, and that's what my building is like. We've got a couple of business owners, we've got a retired lawyer, we've got a retired financial planner that are on our strata council, and they've got some time. They put the time in to manage the strata a lot more than some buildings that I see. Some buildings, of course, you're going to have a lot of absentee owners. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, a lot of times if you've got 50, 60, 70% of the units rented, a lot of times these owners don't show up for the AGMs, they don't vote on things, they're not living in the building. And it's a lot more difficult to get a quality strata council put together. So these are kind of some of the things you want to look at. You know, the final thing that I mentioned before to people, if you're in a strata, whether it's a 1-bedroom or a townhouse, I always suggest people at least once volunteer for your strata council. You'll learn a tremendous amount by volunteering for a year or 2 on council. It's not a huge commitment. Usually these councils meet once a month for an hour. Some of them, depending on the size, might only meet every couple of months. And then you've got an AGM every year. You will learn a ton about how stratas work, about how management works, about getting quotes on things to upgrade elevators and boilers and piping. It's just a fantastic education, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and you will know moving forward when you've been on council, you'll have a much better idea of the things to look for when you're putting an offer in on a home and getting all the strata documents, what to look for and the kind of things you want to see. I'm Owen Biglen. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.